What's going on, boyos? I was watching back one of my old videos and I realized I fucking hate when I hold the tripod up, kind of like a selfie stick kind of deal. And it's like waving around. Hate that shit. We're gonna try to remember to make the tripod nice and tall, stand it up and stand in front of it like a man. You guys are joining me for my second bench day of this microcycle. It's my Larsen day. Right now I'm bench pressing 4 days a week, like I talked about in yesterday's kind of training recap. 2 comp, 2 Larsen right now. The days that fall after my lower body days, I Larsen, because my low back's a little fried, don't feel like arching. And right now, I would say my Larsen press is proportionally behind a little bit, which gives me reason to believe that if I get a bit better at it, it'll carry over pretty directly. People always want numerical ratios of like what percentage should I be able to long pause? What percentage should I be able to Larsen press? So that, like, everybody's got this idea that there are like golden ratios out there, front to back squat to deadlift, and that we're going to be able to exploit these ratios in a way to get stronger, right? So we know, oh, this means I fall below 90% of my Larsen of my comp bench, so I'm going to do a bunch of Larsen, and that means it's going to carry over. It usually doesn't work that way. It varies so much from person to person with leverages and what technique they use that there are no hard and fast percentages that can scale between individuals. That being said, you can establish kind of general working ratios for yourself where you're like, shit, if my pause squat is, let's say, below 90% of my regular squat, that's something I can exploit for some easy gains on my main squat. Or my Larsen press falls X percentage below. And that's kind of what I've done for myself. And I've found that my Larsen press has fallen below that margin, which means for the time being, it'll be a very productive accessory, not just for horizontal pressing volume that spares my lower back, but also for challenging a relative weakness. Whereas, like, let's say I was above that general threshold for my Larsen press, I might still do it as low back sparing bench pressing, but I wouldn't expect that additional carryover as I would when it's lagging a little bit behind. I'm fatigued as all hell, but I'm supposed to be fatigued as all hell. Just putting in moderately heavy bench touches, accumulating that fatigue while I'm supposed to be accumulating that fatigue, making sure that I avoid picking up any little injuries. That's obviously a big priority right now while getting in all these heavy touches, accumulating that fatigue that I need. Yeah, so pretty banged up. Rotator cuff ever so slightly funky, so we're just gonna bear that in mind when we're doing our light overhead volume. Yeah, I'll have a second tangent to talk about after this next warm-up set. All right, I just got that 365 in, felt okay. Was doing some of my early warm-ups against a band, which you may see. Only real reason for that right now is I can get enough force off of my chest with, let's say, 365-ish and below, that I'm not really using my triceps in the same way that I would for a heavy bench press. So like, if you want to think about it this way, in some ways I would say the banded warm-up reps are a little bit more specific to how I would be approaching my bench press if it was a 90% plus load. And I know that sounds a little weird to say, oh, well, benching against bands in this case might actually have higher specificity for preparing against a non-bench against bands. But that being said, I think that it's just an interesting topic to think about, that specificity isn't always as cut and dry as we want to make it, right? Because you could say, oh, well, I'm doing sets of 8 on competition bench. That means my specificity is ultra high. Well, no, if you're preparing for a 1RM, I don't know how specific taking sets of 8 is. Maybe you could make an argument, depending on what lens we're viewing it through, that taking a conjugate approach of maxing your pin press is way more specific, because powerlifting at its core is the ability to work up to a 1 rep maximum, to move a maximal load. And you could say, okay, well, yeah, it's not a comp bench, but I'm more specific in my loading, right? And so, specificity can be used through a lot of lenses, not just exercise selection. And in this case, I feel like I'm better prepared for the motor patterns I would look to use when it gets heavy. If I do a couple of warm-ups against bands, it's not really a big deal. I could do just as good of quality work otherwise. But I digress. The other thing that I just wanted to mention is there's this cool website. I've noticed that there's a couple other similar websites that I think are less cool that have popped up recently, but the one I like is called symmetricstrength.com, I think. There's like the strength standard website, which I just think is silly. I think lots of people say, oh, those standards are overshot or those standards are undershot. It's kind of, again, whether or not it's using data, where we put the cutoff for elite in terms of what percentile is still arbitrary and based on an individual's terms, right? So I don't know if that's good. It's just people wanting to measure up against other people, which I don't always think is the most productive impulse. It's cliche, but like you should compare yourself to yourself. And focus on your rate of progression rather than where you are relative to other people. But the one I like is a website kind of similar, and it gives you like your score of like, oh, world class, elite, advanced, intermediate, whatever. But it also compares your lifts relative to one another. I think you can put in a front squat, you can put in a back squat, a sumo, a conventional, a pull up, a pendlay row, a chin up, overhead press and push press, or any combination of those that you do actually train. And it kind of tells you relative to other lifters, your strength level. Oh, well, compared to people about your level, you're ahead of the curve on this lift, or proportionately, actually, your push press is behind, because it's like we don't necessarily know what is a good push press compared to conventional deadlift. Who knows? This website, kind of cool. And I've always been an advocate for trying to pursue well-rounded strength. I think that it's kind of lame to just lean into the one strength expression that comes easy to you, because all of us are going to have a lift that comes easy to us. If you got short arms, it might be the bench press. You got short legs, it might be the squat. You got long arms, it might be the deadlift. Go through a bunch of other different lifts, include like dips and blah, blah, blah. There's always going to be something, whether it be due to limb length or like just prior sporting history or just some weird reason you're good at it, right? I've met guys who have long arms who just have always been good bench pressers. It's just the way they're wired. I think it's kind of lame to be like, I'm pursuing strength sport, but I only do the one that I'm naturally gifted at. I like testing and competing in something that is a well-rounded, because it's like a well-rounded test of strength, because the thing that comes easy to you, you're also doing something that, because that other thing came easy to you, this other thing was harder. And it kind of evens out. And I like that we're all chasing, like filling in gaps. Because it'd be very easy for me to just do nothing but bench pressing and not bust my ass on squats and deadlifts every single week because it comes easy to me. And I'd probably be ahead of where I am, but I think it'd be lame for my strength to be here up. So I'm always been an advocate of trying to become as well-rounded of a strong person as you can. And that could give you some perspective of like, what is my front squat to back squat? Like, which one probably should I be pushing a little bit harder? Is my pull behind? You know, the ratios, again, it's going to vary, right? If you are that crazy long-limbed person, of course your squat's going to lag behind. You don't need to be told that by a website, but it can be a little bit of fun. I like the website. Yeah. Oh, I remember what I said about hating holding this up, so it's free floating. Here you go. So just hit set of 5 at 425 on Larsen press. Not particularly good, but it is what it is. I'm hitting a singular work set today because the day after tomorrow, I got to come in and do a heavy comp bench again. So we are looking to hit the pecs heavy and often, but not much volume, right? The old triangle, you should probably pick only 2 of them, volume, frequency, intensity. Right now we're going with the intensity and the frequency and keeping the volume quite low so that can be sustained. It's not just trying to full throttle everything at once. But I remember why I brought up the Symmetric Strength website. I put everything in. Obviously, I'm in the higher categories for most of my shit, but apparently I am not so impressive in the vertical pulling category. I can do some good rows. I can do all that other crap. Pull-ups, apparently, your boy is like intermediate. So I've decided I am going to work a little extra hard on those until I have fixed that, because that is unacceptable. So that was my motivation for the day. I used that while I was doing some spreadsheets for my clients earlier and whipping together that gym bag tier list. I was like, oh, I remember that Symmetric Strength website. We'll see what everything's looking like nowadays. I put everything in and slapped me right in the face with that pull-up stuff. So we got work to do. Gonna hit some volume on the pull-ups today. Nothing too impressive. Probably just gonna do body weight plus either 10 or 25 for 3 work sets. Again, because I'm benching 4 days a week, I'm also hitting these pull-ups 4 days a week. So usually center around 3 work sets on those. We'll see how that goes, and then we move into whatever I feel we can do for vertical pressing on the day. It's a bit of a pain to not be able to go like all out on each exercise slot of, okay, got my horizontal pressing, gonna horizontal press until I'm somewhat fried, vertical pull, vertical press, horizontal pull, good to go home. Yeah, hammer some triceps. Got to be a little bit more conscious of where I'm at within the training week when I'm later in the block like this, which is a bit of a pain. Got to dial some stuff back, but results are what matter, right? So I could whack myself off about how hardcore I am and how I leave nothing in the tank on any exercise. If that makes me hit a less heavy single at the end, that doesn't really make me any cooler. So we're gonna try to play it smart and get in some good work and take my much needed rest day tomorrow. The heavy bench press I have is gonna be on Saturday. That's gonna be a little bit goofy because Kirsten and Max are competing that day. So hopefully, obviously I'm handling them, handling 2 other people as well. So I'm gonna be quite busy. Hopefully I can get enough food down between events. I'll probably bully the people I coach into buying me some McDonald's or something. And make sure I'm responsible with my water intake. Bring some bananas with me, shit like that, to make sure that once that meet is over, I can then turn around and hit some big bench pressing. So, yeah.